to us about transport issues, as well as the massive decrease in bus fares at the Jamaica Urban Transport Company. We'll start first by welcoming Minister, the Honorable Favour Williams, our Minister of Education and Youth, who has some important updates to give us about the education system. Minister.
Thank you so much, Minister Morgan. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me acknowledge our Permanent Secretary, Dr. Kassan Troop, and the team from the Ministry of Education and Youth, to include the early childhood sector, led by Mrs. Deslandes. Let me acknowledge as well Major White from Marcus Garvey in Schools program, who is here with us this morning. Members of the media, thank you so much for always being here to help us to carry the news, the good news on education. So first, let me start by saying condolences to the immediate families and friends and the school communities of our two fourth form students, Akil McIntyre and Ajani Robinson. Both students were on their way to school when they met in an accident and were killed. The Ministry of Education and Youth, as is our normal protocol, dispatched a trauma team and education officers to the Petersfield High School in Westmoreland. I think we can all agree that this is a tragic loss on so many levels. A loss to their families, the school, communities, and Jamaica as a whole. I pray that with the support of the ministry's counseling team and that of the wider community, that the immediate and extended families will be able to find some comfort during this difficult time. This morning, we are delighted to report on our Marcus Garvey in Schools program, which introduces into primary schools the philosophies and opinions of the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, one of our national heroes. This initiative was first introduced to the curriculum unit of the Ministry of Education and Youth in July of last year by a private entity, of which Mr. White is a member. This was seen as a potential opportunity to augment the implementation of the civics program, which has been mandated in all our schools. As such, a team was quickly assembled from the curriculum unit to engage the Marcus Garvey in Schools team to facilitate discussion about the program for implementation. Of course, we had several meetings. We had to look at the program material for age appropriateness and the content. We felt very comfortable about this because the Marcus Garvey in Schools team had already started a pilot project earlier in January of last year through the Early Childhood Commission targeting 5-year-olds. So the ministry was approached with a request to have the program implemented at the grade 1 level in our primary schools. The Marcus Garvey in Schools team presented a set of books, and you can see pictures on the screen, and I just got my very own autographed copies of all the various books, including a scrapbook for children and other books. And I have to say, these are fully financed by the organization that came to us with the initiative. And I want to thank them very much for the time and effort put into this. And, you know, they didn't just come with the idea. They came, they put their money where their mouths were or are. Yes. So I want to thank you very much and take back our just sincere gratitude to the rest of the team, and we will continue to work with you, obviously, to scale this up so that many more of our children can have access to the philosophies of Marcus Garvey. As you know, the areas of emphasis include pride in one's skin color, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, among other topics. We do have lesson plans that were created, vetted, and found to be supportive of our current civics program, which has Garveyism as the underpinning principle on which the civics curriculum sits. And just to conclude, in total, we have 22 early childhood institutions and 24 primary schools that currently are a part of the program. Of course, this spans all parishes and therefore all regions. We have a total of 72 teachers. 1,844 students are participants in the program at the grade 1 level in all parishes. In order to help us scale it up as well, we have been using the teacher-teacher workshops to prepare more teachers to participate in this program. So in time, many more of our schools will be included in it. But just like anything else that we roll out into our schools, a lot of times we're not able to reach everybody at the same time. But we begin, and over time, we roll it out. What's important is that we continue at it, we maintain the momentum, and that we continue it during the years ahead. And so we're very satisfied with where we are with this program and the fact that we will be scaling it up, putting it into many more schools in our system. I want to transition now to the STEM schools, and I see that we have our project manager here this morning. As the Ministry of Education and Youth continues on the path to transforming education for national development trend, a priority area is the focus on improving our knowledge base, the knowledge base in our children in terms of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, STEM or STEAM education, particularly at the secondary level. We've had a program in the ministry called the Education System Transformation Program that's been implemented by the National Education Trust for transforming the physical infrastructure of our schools. And it's a program that's estimated at a cost of US $109 million, obviously over time. Layered on top of this is the Jamaica Education Project, valued at US $30 million, and for which we had the press event on Monday with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the World Bank for the first STEM school in St. Anne. And I want to say it's not just the infrastructure, because this program will enable us to train approximately 6,000 secondary teachers to help them to integrate STEM in the first instance, but it's not just for STEM schools, but to better integrate STEM subjects in our schools in general. For the school in St. Anne, we expect it to have some 2,400 students, but when you look across the teachers who are going to be trained and you do the math there, the 6,000 secondary teachers that will be trained, you'll recognize that a minimum of about 150,000 students will begin to get access to this integrated STEM in schools possibility. And we're extremely happy for that. The program, as funded by the World Bank, has started in earnest. And Dr. Solomon, to my left, is the project lead on that. On his shoulders, it's a lot of responsibility, but we know he's up to the task, and that he has already begun to put in the infrastructure to support the work that needs to be done. I'll move on now to just speaking a little bit about the recent publication by CSEC, which is our regional examining body. Recently, CSEC released the names of all our young men and women who were ranked in the top regionally across all subject areas in both CSEC and CAPE. For CSEC, 35 subject areas in which our students in Jamaica ranked in the top regionally in 30 different subject areas. And if you're curious as to what we didn't rank in the top in, Portuguese is one subject. Guyana dominated, but maybe they know something that we need to ask, because they dominated in Portuguese. As you know, in CAPE, the subject areas range from agricultural science to add maths to physics. So we want to congratulate all of our CSEC students who were placed on the merit list regionally. Well done. We're proud of your accomplishments. And I don't know if she wants to let this known, but our Pierce's daughter was among those placed regionally as well, in IT. Yes, congratulations, yes. In terms of CAPE, our CAPE students, as you know, they sit units 1 and 2 across 75 different subject areas. And pass rates at CAPE is very high. CAPE is a very competitive, very demanding exam. And so we want to give, I'm going to say enough commendations to all our students who sat CAPE and those who were placed on the merit list regionally. Again, we are very, very proud of your accomplishments. And finally, I want to just speak a little bit about the gazetting of schools. Recently, we gazetted 142 schools across all educational regions. Region 4 and 5 had the most schools, 42 and 36 respectively. This is part of our modernization. These schools are transitioning from all age or junior high or standalone primary schools to now be primary and infant schools. And we have of the 142 that were gazetted, 128 are now fully primary and infant schools. And this points to the government's commitment to strengthen the early childhood sector, to ensure that when our children transition into primary schools, well, if they go to primary, we have infant schools that are, most of these are primary and infant schools, so they can go all the way through from infant through to the primary, so they don't have to leave and go any place else. So the gazetting of schools is a matter of record now. We are delighted that we've done the work to make this happen, so all our schools can begin to do their new branding and be proud of the fact that they are now primary and infant schools. Thank you to the team. I know it's a lot of detailed work, consultations and all of that had to go on. It took a while, but we are here, with 142 schools recently gazetted. So that concludes the updates from the education sector. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister Vaz is on his way, so we will take some questions for the Minister of Education and her team until he arrives. Angelique, do we have any questions for the Minister?
Good morning, Minister Morgan. Morning, Minister Williams. Arthur Hall from the Jamaica Observer. Minister, there has been an issue in the news recently about a student at St. George's College who was reportedly suspended for 7 days. Has that come across your desk yet? And would you care to respond, either you or the PS?
Right. So I'm going to ask the PS to respond because there's a protocol for how we deal with these issues in the school.
Good morning, Minister. Good morning, colleagues. With respect to the St. George's matter, the report has come to the ministry. We're aware that the fan was broken by an incident, accidentally by another student. It was brought to the attention of the school and preparations were ongoing for the repair of the fan. During that period, we are aware that a student recorded and was able to share in the public space the fan with a comment about the institution. The regulations at the school, as reported by the principal, is that students are not permitted to use their phones at school. They are not permitted to take recordings of the school and share that without the permission of the principals and the authorities involved. That was not observed. The matter was brought to the attention of the principal. The matter in the public space brought some disrepute to the institution, and the outline consequence of that is that students are normally suspended for breaches of such nature. This child in particular was given a letter for 7 days with some additional conditions that the child will only serve 2 days out of school, and as you know, one such school day was given as a closure day, which was the Friday because of the inclement weather. So the child served 1 day out of school. The child returned on Monday of this week and will do some rehabilitation activities on the weekends. I think it includes 3 Saturdays, all at the expense of the school, which is a standard rehabilitation initiative that is implemented by St. George's College. A program that we have seen to work over the years. A number of our boys who have done or have had breaches in the school rules, they have been asked to go through this initiative, which is fully funded by the church and partners of the school. And we have seen testimonials from the boys that it has helped them. And today, we have seen St. George's College moved up the rank from a low or underperforming in terms of what we expected of them to a very high performing school, with this year showing a success rate of 91% in their CSEC and CAPE examination results. We are definitely proud of the institution. This is an institution, an all-boys institution, and we are concerned as Jamaicans about the success of our boys. And we see an institution working assiduously with its parents and partners to make sure that the boys are successful. This school has done it, it has proven it. They have invested, not just us as the ministry, but their partners, their PTA, their past students. You see what's happening with St. George's College. So we support the thrust of the school to ensure that there's a high level of discipline in the school, and I do believe that due process was followed in this case, and the child is being supported further with counseling program as outlined by the principal in the report. Thank you.
Hi, good morning.
It was an extremely comprehensive answer, wasn't it? Good morning.
Morning, I'm Jamaica from TDJ. My questions are to the PS. Aside from Portuguese, what other subjects, CSEC subjects, did we not top? And 2, recently Jamaica was fingered out by CSEC as being a leak in, I think, 1 or 2 breaches. There was a report that said Jamaica had put forward something to say or to try to prevent the issue from happening again. Can you give any assurance of what that was and whether or not we won't have any breaches in the future? Thanks.
Minister.
Sure. So in terms of your first question, as I mentioned earlier, Portuguese, integrated science is another area. Industrial technology building, and then most disappointing, music general and visual arts general. Those are the areas in which we did not have a student that was placed in the top. PS, you want to answer the CSEC question? You were recently at CSEC? I mean CXC, okay.
Jamila, this is really an unfortunate situation that we have had to respond to. We have had some breaches locally in the administration of our exam. We have reported such to the police, so an investigation is ongoing. Disappointingly, the cabinet with the math paper and, well, other papers were also included that were done already. We have not yet retrieved that or recovered that, but the investigations are ongoing. It really cost us as a country. It was very embarrassing, you know, for our minister to sit in a regional meeting of ministers and for CXC to be explaining that there's a breach that will impact other students, and for us to be taking full responsibility and apologizing for the disruption that has happened, or what had happened at that time. So I just want to take the opportunity to call upon our nation. Our schools should be treasured. Our students should be treasured. The future of Jamaica really sits on the excellence within our schools, and we need our communities to support our schools. We need all hands on deck. For persons to break into a school and to remove an examination cabinet, that disrupted a lot of things. It created psychological disruption for the students. We had to put a number of systems in place to make sure that the other exams could have been done and students could have resit their exam. You saw where we had to make sure that the technology was in place because the alternative paper was done electronically. And we had to have opportunity for the students to be exposed to that so they would not have been disadvantaged by going through that experience that they are not familiar with. So it really was a disruption. But we're working with CXC. We're working with the Overseas Examination Commission. It is our local registrar. It's our agency, and they are responsible for the administration of the exam. I want to give a good shout out to our principals, especially on that day, because it requires us to distribute the paper on the day. That is what happened as an intervention to make sure that we could secure and the students could have results so they could progress for higher learning or into the world of work. We had to call upon our principals at an emergency meeting, asking them to help us to retrieve the paper on the day and to facilitate distribution on the day as a matter of security. That's a heavy demand because of the size of Jamaica. When we compare to the region, some of our colleagues have 5 schools, 3 high schools, 10 schools. Jamaica has 180 high schools. Plus we have private centers. So to distribute papers on a day, it's going to be very difficult, especially when we talk about our deep rural schools. So we really want to make sure that our systems work. The OEC is going through an audit now of all the safety cabinets that we have in our schools. They are specially built for this and with special codes and so forth. So we are going to make sure that all of those systems are working. The last deliberations we had with OEC is to add to their budget the security feature of CCTV camera, either to attach that to the cabinet itself or to install that in the location of the cabinet so we can have instant footage of what's happening around the papers. We will be retraining all our principals and ensuring that they observe the protocols for exam administration. We get the sense from the audit that some of the expectations were relaxed a bit because of over the years of doing the exam with the same team. The OEC will also be strident and vigilant with who are selected to be exam managers for each school. We rely on those persons. We're going to be asking our principals to be conscious in who access. The regulation says it's a principal that should only, or his or her designate, which is normally like the VP who's in charge of exams, will move the paper from the cabinet to the examiner and back. We don't want to compromise that going forward. We have had cases where that has been compromised. So those are some of the things. We are really looking at the standards that are in place. We are asking for no compromise regardless of your circumstance. We are going to be vigilant with those we have selected to work for us. OEC will also do some spot checks on the days. So they will be having persons going in randomly, just check a school to see what's happening and making sure that the papers are delivered once it is written. We are going to be collecting because we have had cases where papers are stored and missing and other persons would have been compromised because of that. So we're going to relook. We have relooked, and we're going to be vigilant this year. We cannot, as a country, afford another experience of this nature. It was very embarrassing for us, and it's also a cost factor for the CXC to provide an alternative paper for our students. The government had to foot that bill because we could not have asked parents to pay that cost. Again, we had to assume that cost, which is an increase in our budget. And so we had to ask CXC to move speedily ahead while we put the process in place to compensate them for this activity. It's a significant cost, significant embarrassment to the country. I'm using this podium, parents, community members, principals, teachers, we have to stand together to fight for our country, to fight for our institutions, and we must stand for integrity. We must protect the integrity of our exams if we're going to trust that once a student produces a report, a result from their exams, it can stand and it will validate what they can do as a citizen of this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Permanent Secretary. Is it Secretary or Secretary? Potato, potato. Do we have any more questions? Go ahead.
Good morning. Just a minor question for Minister Williams. Just wanted to see if I could get a reaction to the fare reduction for JUTC that was announced by Transport Minister yesterday, and how you believe it will affect the education sector moving forward.
It will be very good for the education sector. As you know, many of our students in the corporate area take JUTC buses to school, and so that will be a relief in the pockets of parents. So I'm delighted, I'm happy. At the same time, I took the opportunity to advocate as well for our children in rural areas. I have to wait on the Minister of Finance to think about that and see what space there may be in the budget. Because transportation outside of the corporate area is very, very expensive. Currently, we spend some $390 million for our rural bus transportation system for students. But despite that large number, $390 million, it really only helps about 7,500 students, with their transportation needs. So transportation is one of those big cost items for parents in our rural areas.
Thank you very much, Minister. Any further questions for the Minister of Education? Go ahead, please. Minister Vaz is almost here.
Okay. Jamila again from TVJ. Minister, we have seen recently a lot of children dying, unfortunately. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, yesterday, there was an incident in Westmoreland in Petersfield. We've seen you at so many schools recently, giving tours, talking. What's your reaction to all of this? And is there any advice to, the adults, the motorists on the road, in light of what's going on?
All right. Of course, we're always saddened when we get the news of the death of any of our students. And over the last couple of weeks, we've had, just sad news. I've had to attend several funerals. I know that our trauma team at the ministry is always on, they're always ready to go out to the schools, to the families. We're talking now about even expanding that to the communities because communities are impacted as well with this. Of course, we don't want to see these things happen, whether it's fire, accident, motor vehicle accident, shootings, and so forth. We're appealing to Jamaicans to really help us to protect our children as they travel to and from school. In fact, in a recent survey that was done, traveling to and from school is one of the areas feared most by our children. And so we have to say to the adults in Jamaica, be the protector of our students. Sometimes they have to go alone because their parents have to work. There are many different situations. And we need to come together as Jamaicans to be the protector of our children, whether yours or somebody else. Children need to be able to trust adults, you know, and to know that adults are there to protect them. So we are really saddened, as I said, by the many different situations that have come to our attention, and we do the best that we can to provide support for the families in their moment of grief. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Minister. Are there any other questions from the press?
All right, so we're going to take a break while Minister Vaz comes. Yes, I know. Traffic is very terrible out there. So just give us 5 minutes while he's on his way.
Good day. I'm Twyla Whelan, and this is your JS News for Monday, October 30, 2023. A 5.6 magnitude earthquake rocked Jamaica about 10:57 this morning. According to the earthquake unit, the epicenter of the earthquake was approximately 10 kilometers south of Buff Bay, Portland. The earthquake hit 35 kilometers northeast of Kingston. The quake was felt in eastern Jamaica and other parishes. Other countries affected were the Bahamas, Haiti, and Cuba. The National Works Agency, NWA, and the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, are currently conducting damage assessment. Prime Minister Andrew Holness also gave this update.
Damage has been minor, but nevertheless, we are taking all precautions. All our protocols have been activated, and generally,
And good morning to you once again. Thank you for standing by. We'll now not delay. Welcome Minister Vaz, who is your problem, you lower the fears and the traffic increase. So welcome Minister Vaz to the platform to update us on the recent developments in the transport sector.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just to give a quick update, you would have heard the announcement made by the Minister of Finance yesterday in relation to the price decreases for the JUTC bus fares, which, again, to reiterate, would be 30% effective January 2024 and a further 20% April 2024. This does not come as a surprise to me, because you'll recall that I did make a comment at the time when the increase was made to say that I realized, and the Cabinet did realize, of the inflationary effect that would happen in relation to the fare increases, as transportation has a significant inflationary factor, especially public transportation. So it is, as I said, not a surprise to me. The timing of it, I had indicated when I spoke that provisions were being looked at for the new budget year. But because of the impact, obviously, that it has had, and it's the projection for November, the minister found it necessary to implement it in this financial year, obviously because of the November figures, which I suspect will be made public later on today. So, again, it shows that when there's a joined-up approach in governance, obviously it works better for the people, especially in light of the fact that in one instance there was an increase which has led to a decrease in another area of the transport sector, and any decrease is welcome. The numbers are the question is being asked, I mean, how will this impact and who will it impact? The last survey shows about 145,000 passengers being transported in the KTMR on a daily basis. Of that, 60,000 is on the buses, which will be the JUCC factor, out of 145,000. And as you know, we already have a deficiency in the amount of buses that we have. So with the increase in buses, which has been stated and is far advanced in the process, we're looking to put 100 buses in the fleet of the JUTC for the calendar year, not the financial year, the calendar year 24, could be as early as June, if everything goes according to my plan, but definitely by latest September with the first 100, with another 200 that would then be made available in the fiscal year 24, 25, 25, 26, and possibly 26, 27. The impact of those 100 buses will probably increase JUTC's movements, daily movements, by about 20,000. So you'll be moving to 80,000. So right now we're at 60,000. So this has a direct impact on 60,000 citizens who use JUTC as their mode of transportation. So for some it's not significant. For me and the government that I represent, 60,000 people are a lot of people in any way, shape, or form. The other good side of it is that those 100 buses will allow us to extend our routes to St. Thomas with the new infrastructure and to Clarendon, bordering on Manchester, which again will have a huge impact in relation to people being able to move more efficiently. And 300 new buses will substantially improve the efficiency of the JUTC in terms of public passenger transportation, efficient transportation, comfortable transportation. So we look forward to that. In the meantime, it's well known that we got 50 buses earlier this year. We got 6 last month. Out of an order of 20, we have another 14 that will arrive in January or February. 14 buses out of a fleet of 240 as new buses is significant and will have an impact. So you'll see gradual improvements in the fleet and in the efficiency. So the question that has been raised also, obviously, is how is JUTC going to deal with the additional pressure of the passenger load? And that is a challenge, but everything in life has challenges. So you will definitely see people wanting to benefit from the fare decrease, and then obviously move away from the current transport which they take now, which is hackney carriage or taxi, to JUTC. So we're going to have to see how we can maneuver. There are some buses that we are trying to refurbish to get them back into the system. And of course, the average age of the buses is 12 to 14 years. So the reliability is an issue. So we may just have to make good with what we can make out of the existing fleet and those vehicles those buses that are down. But to say again and reiterate that we're moving in the right direction, and any decrease in any thing is substantial. So I hear the cries or the people saying, you know, how much will this help? The fact of the matter is that if we are able to do what we have done and sustain it, because remember, it's a temporary up to 24 months, not for 24 months, but up to 24 months. And what I would ask everybody to look at is what would be the other alternative if we did not, and the effects that inflation would have, which is ravaging the world already, by no means Jamaica. It has been left out of that. And therefore, what we have done is to try and control the inflation going forward, which will have a huge benefit to the entire population. So don't look at it just by virtue of I don't use a JUTC bus, so it does not affect me. It affects every living citizen in Jamaica, because when you go to the supermarket or anywhere, you are feeling the effects of inflation, and the government has to try and control it as best as possible. So good news, always good to announce something like this, especially in the transport industry, and I congratulate Minister Clark on the collaboration with myself and my ministry, and of course the cabinet who signed off on this, and it was announced yesterday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Minister Vaz, I suspect there may be some questions from members of the media, so do not leave us yet.
I say Arthur Harley, I know he must have something to say from my old days.
Naomi, could you give Ms. Maitland the microphone, please? Thank you, Ms. Maitland.
Hi, morning, Minister. Jamila from TVJ. The announcement has been received as bittersweet, especially for those in rural Jamaica. And one of the last times you were here, you said that something is coming for children there, for those who take the buses there. What?
I'm happy that you asked me, because I actually forgot. So I have a meeting today, which is for the presentation of the outline of the rural transportation system specific for school children. Once that is made, I will then get the Ministry of Education involved, and I will be in a position to announce when will the pilot project start, because we have to do a pilot to make sure that it works seamless. But I am saying to you that my intention is by no later than the first quarter of next year, which is January to March, we should be in a position to roll out a pilot, and more details will become available, but it is a top priority, but it has to be done right, and it has to be done in collaboration with the existing bus taxi operators, private sector, and of course the government agencies and ministries. So again, my sincere condolences on behalf of the government in relation to the death of a two school children yesterday, plus what transpired last week with the 5 and then the 6. So the truth is that it's not only about this, the school children, but about the safety on the roads, which again is something that is top priority for the government.
Can I mention, so the government has spent a lot of time and a lot of resources in trying to improve road safety. It is the logic behind the new Road Traffic Act. It is the logic behind the new ticketing system. So yes, we are below last year in terms of road deaths. I think we're about 10 to 12%. But as we enter into the festive season, where we usually see an uptick based on heightened use, based on parties, based on other events, we must implore commuters out there to be safe on the roads, because though you may be speeding to your destination, you may also be speeding to your final destination. So we are asking members of the commuting public to be safe on the roads. Look out for the children, look out for pedestrians. Let us try to keep it more than 10% below last year.
One more for Minister Vaz. Could you just remind us which parish are part of the pilot or parishes? That's one. And
hasn't been decided yet. I would love it to be Portland, but that has not been decided yet. But we will use a parish that has all the geographics.
Clarendon has more schools than Portland.
There you go. So you'll have a lot of competition. But yes, we'll decide and find an area that is suitable for all the data that we need to collect and to see how it works.
And one more. A lot of persons complain about, I guess, the timeliness of the buses. In light of the decrease, is there any discussions about, for example, like an application, I saw that going around, about, when the buses will arrive so persons can have it on their phones, persons will know how long they can wait at the bus stop, so they don't wait in vain, for example.
So we have improved, still not nowhere near where it should be, but because of the 50 buses, we have been able to improve and the other buses that we've been able to put into the system. But yes, that is an issue in terms of the bus routes and the times. And we are working to come up with something, especially in the festive season here, going into January, back to school morning, to see how we can actually communicate better in terms of information in relation to the buses. But I still encourage everybody who has issues or suggestions to continue to send them in through the JUTC or through the Transport Authority or through me, because we do take your criticisms and your concerns seriously. But yes, that's still much better, but not good enough. Work in progress.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions?
Morning, Minister Vaz. Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News. 2 questions. First one, we've seen recently where we've seen an addition of electric buses to the JUTC fleet. Is there any word on what fraction of the buses that are coming will be electric?
Excellent question, sir. Excellent question. So the Minister of Finance would have announced in his budget presentation the plans to acquire 200 buses, which would be 200 of the, it's now not 200 anymore, it's now 300, but 200. And the bottom line is that the test bus, there's one test bus here, electric, and another to come. So far, we are not satisfied that the technology has reached to where we want it to in terms of the efficiency. What we're looking at other countries and seeing, including Barbados, which has had some serious issues with electric buses. So we will transition as a policy from diesel to CNG to electric, but at this phase, we are concentrating on the importation of CNG buses. And of course, that will do huge in terms of the pilferage of the diesel, which is a multi-million-dollar business on its own, and on top of which, we are in a stage of a pilot now in terms of going completely cashless. If we can deal with the leakage of the fuel and the leakage of the fares, then we will be much more efficient in terms of how we operate JUTC and be able to put back that money into buses and other systems that will make it more efficient. So to answer your question, electric buses, electric vehicles, we have a policy that has been passed by Cabinet, implemented, but in terms of integrating electric buses into JUTC, I see that more in the short term to medium term. Okay. But definitely some of the 300 buses will be electric. But I believe that it will more than likely come in the last phase, and it will be a small percentage until such time as we are satisfied that the technology has reached the stage where we can get maximum efficiency and cost reductions in that. So a very good question. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Last question. Last month, we reported that around over 60 PPV operators were punished for overcharging. We'd just like to know if there's been any update as regards this month, and if there has been an increase or a decrease.
Yes, there has been an increase, and it is going to be sustained, both in terms of the overcharging, which obviously has been an issue, and of course the discipline on the roads. So Operation Transport Streamline continues, which is a collaboration between Transport Authority and the Traffic Police, and it's all island. I think the last update I got was 89 persons that had been charged for overcharging, and of course, traffic tickets are on the increase, especially in the public passenger transport among public passenger transport operators. So again, that's another part and another phase of what we're trying to do, which is to basically take back the roads from the roads.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hall, I think has a question for you, Mr. Vaz.
I was wondering.
Minister, a member of the Transport Subcommittee that you've put together was upset that you had a meeting this week and there was no indication of the reduction in JUTC fares coming, and he's questioning if the impact that it will have on these private operators.
Yeah, so this matter arose and came up for discussion at Cabinet on Monday. That meeting would have been prior to Monday, but I have communicated subsequently before the minister spoke yesterday. Will it have an impact? Yes. How huge an impact? I think it will be minimized because of our fleet, our current fleet of buses. I think that when we increase the fleet, obviously persons will have more access to the buses. But I'm not seeing where it will be very, very impactful at this particular time. So I intend to have discussions with the public passenger associations, and we will take it from there. But the government has to act in the best interests of the people of Jamaica and not a particular sector. So in this case, they won on one hand and they lost a little on another hand. They got a well-deserved, long overdue increase, a great economic impact, and we have an agreement in relation to the 16% for April next year. So it's all good.
Thank you very much, Minister Vaz. Do we have any more questions, Naomi?
No further questions, Minister. So
thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Minister, the Honorable Favour Williams, and her team from the Ministry of Education. Important update on the Marcus Garvey initiative. There have been calls by many members of the society for us to teach Garvey, and I think that's a very important initiative that the public will welcome. I want to thank also Minister Vaz for his late entry, but he was present nonetheless. Thank him for being here. Members of the media, members of the public who are listening and viewing online, thank you as well, and to the JIS team and the team here at the Office of the Prime Minister. Until next week, Wednesday, 8 a.m. sharp, for another post-cabinet press briefing. Please be safe and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Watch the trend, pick up the trend. This are the trend for all the youths them. Watch the trend, pick up the trend. TREND. Pick up the trend for education, teachers and the students. A fully bright future, yes, that are the new trend. Better governance.